Welcome to today's edition of BankBI CFO Insights webinar series. My name is Connor and I'll be hosting today's session alongside our BankBI CEO, Graham Goble. For those of you joining us for the first time, you can access the recordings of previous webinars in our series via our website landing page. So it's in the resources section on the home page. If you'd like to see BankBI in action, then you can also check out our videos in the demo center at your leisure. I'm going to cover a couple of housekeeping items now to cover off just before we get started. You're going to be muted during the session, but if you do have any questions, can you please make a note of them, or ideally submit them using the control panel. We're going to try and answer all of those questions that we receive in the Q&A session towards the end of the presentation, but any that we can't cover, then I'll respond in writing to you after. I'll also be asking you to participate in our polling questions. So I'm going to introduce each of those questions and make it really obvious when those are coming up. Then you can provide your response simply by clicking on the options on the screen. So it's as simple as just clicking a box on screen. And lastly, I'll be recording today's session, and everyone will receive a link to the recording and a copy of the presentation afterwards. So I'd like to get us started by summarizing how we see the current challenge to automated reporting. So for me, it's a before and after situation. So right now I see that there's a lot of senior executives are having to be reactive based on what's happened during the month, or they may not be getting the sort of actionable insights that they need on time. So this is usually or often complicated by manual processes involving Excel in all of its forms. And it makes it, that can often make it very difficult to adapt to changes on a daily basis based on what's actually happening in the business. So, and yet in our polls and the previous polls that we've done, there's a lack of time was often cited as the biggest barrier to deploying technology by over 1/3 of the respondents, with team skill sets and expense rounding out the top 3. So we've conceived BankBI as a cloud-only solution to specifically address those challenges. The idea is to help CFOs move from a financial reporting to financial performance management. Now, the way we do that is by delivering automated daily insights across your financials and product portfolio. That means you can be more productive in managing, or more proactive rather, in managing your performance, or tracking leading indicators and getting those actionable insights that I was talking about based on what's actually happening in the business on a daily basis. So what barriers are there to greater automation? Well, previous polls found that around 40% of CFOs see the biggest driver behind automation in their organization is the demand for faster, higher quality insights for executives and operational stakeholders. So we also see CFOs more and more collaborating closely with the functional leaders across the business on long-range plans, mainly designed to drive greater profitability. So on this slide, I've just listed here some of the common challenges that we see holding some of the banks back, and they include monthly reporting cycles, or those manual intensive processes which keep your highly skilled staff away from more analytical or higher value tasks. Or there may be a heavy dependence on what are usually already very stretched IT resources to get you the data that you need in the first place. And altogether, that means it's not easy to change as quickly as you'd like to, or to adapt to those changes, especially as the pace of change which we see in the market at the moment. So just a little now about BankBI, so you know where we're coming from. So our goal is to help take the pressure off the CFO office by automating away a lot of the manual work from their day. So whether that be to deliver faster or more timely insights to stakeholders, and some examples here, but they would be typically including the CEO and the COO, or making themselves or their teams more strategic, or helping teams just become more productive. I typically see dashboarding and scorecards, as well as regulatory reporting and forecasting, being at the top of the list for automation for senior stakeholders in the businesses that we serve. But at the same time, those often rank among the lowest areas for automation today. So our customers see automation as an effective way to change how they work, and that's really where we help. So our role-based application delivers financial performance management, product performance and analytics, and automated financial and regulatory reporting, and all in one application. So we're now 7 years into our journey, and we now serve around 60 customers in 40 countries. So I believe, and we believe, that that's a testament to the value that we're able to deliver to our customers. That does include banks, normal commercial and retail banks, and both conventional and Islamic banks, as well as credit unions and community banks and microfinance businesses. Now, with that, I'm just going to now move into the first polling question. So I'll pause there. Now, the first question is going to be, do you need a solution to monitor daily performance rather than just report at month end? Now, I'll be launching the poll in a second. There are 3 answers to this. So the first one would be yes, that would help with our decision-making process. No is B, which is not a high priority for you at the moment. Or C, for those of you where it's either not applicable or you don't work within a financial services organization. So if you bear with me for a moment, I will now be launching the poll. So I'm going to give you around 30 seconds to answer that. So if you could please read and understand the question and make your choice simply by clicking on A, B, or C, or the one, which one of the answers that you prefer. Okay, just waiting for the last few answers. Excellent. Okay, I think I've got enough answers there. So thank you very much to everybody for answering that. So I'm now closed this poll. And we'll move on to our next section. So I talked about BankBI being a role-based application. So what this means in practice is that we deliver different views of the business according to the role that they're in, or the senior management, depending on their role. So we structure those views to be consistent across the application and roles. So, for example, if you start at the executive summary level, there's key metrics for performance against strategy. There's the financial analysis level, which shows what's driving financial performance, and you can compare this over time and allowing future-facing scenario modeling. There's a daily product analytics level, and that's a comprehensive view of what you need to know about people, product, channel, and branch. And we also support the needs of your risk, compliance, and audit teams. So, for example, that would include being able to input to the ALCO committee, looking at reconciliation, or proofs for regulatory reporting and management reporting figures. And also those risk, compliance, and audit teams can also independently view the data. So what do we mean by actionable insights? So I'm giving a few examples here. So that would be financial insights into the balance sheet, and that'd be regarding your daily or monthly positions for assets, loans, total deposits, for example, or minimum cash positions, and their changes from the previous day, month, or year to date. Or you can track and grow your loan portfolio against weighted average rates of that loan portfolio, or look at key indicators relating to customers, deposits, average rates, and portfolio growth fluctuations, or rate trends against the average rate. Equally, and importantly, you'll be able to track your regulatory net worth to assets, so you can keep an eye on capital conservation buffers, whether you're sufficiently capitalized. or you might want to forecast lost interest income and assess the effects on earnings. And given the times that we live in, if your government or central bank has delivered a stimulus package or perhaps mandated rescheduling of loans to individuals and businesses, you can quickly identify, measure, monitor, and manage the performance of those customers and products. And finally, moving on really from cost freezes and cost cuts to cost optimization, what we see is that that means that banks and the businesses are going to want to carefully track the results of those efforts. So what are the three things that you need to know each day? Well, this usually includes growing the balance sheet, managing costs and efficiencies, and monitoring profitability. So to grow the balance sheet, that means being able to track new production in terms of loans and deposits, and to do that by branch, product, loan officer, or customer. And to realize efficiencies, as we say, so that's effectively the cost management aspect of the business. So it implies not only being able to monitor your costs and expenses, but also being able to assess how efficient and productive the bank is or the institution is at any moment in time. So that could be, for example, by tracking performance measures against your full-time employees. So you can work out whether or not efficiency is getting better or where the areas are for action. And lastly, monitoring profitability. So from our perspective, this implies tracking volumes and rates on loans and deposits, for example, and keeping a close eye on your net interest margins. So in summary, before we move on to our second polling question of the session, a brief summary of how BankBI supports those banks, credit unions, and microfinance businesses. So we see this as three value propositions in one. So firstly, there's the financial performance. So that's everything relating to the financials of your business. So production of balance sheets, income statements, and performance ratios, and effectively all the main elements that lead into producing and automating the board pack. And secondly, there's what we call banking performance, and that's where we reach into your core banking system and pull out a daily snapshot of all your loans and deposits and bring them together in a comprehensive loan and deposit analysis every day. And finally, and the subject for today's discussion is on the regulatory reporting solution. So if you think of financial performance and banking performance as the building blocks to regulatory reporting, with regulatory reporting, you're able to respond to regulatory changes much more easily and cost effectively. We do that by automating manual tasks, and we make the business transformation rules visible and ensure that all the reporting attributes are mapped correctly. So now I'd like to move on to our second polling question of the session. And really what I'd like to do here is just understand your readiness for cloud-based applications. So those are as distinct to those more traditional on-premise applications that used to be installed in the businesses. So the question is your bank cloud ready for this type of application? So it's A, if you have a cloud first policy, so if that's a specific strategy for your department or business. B, if you have no specific cloud policy, or C, if it's just something that you're never going to be able to consider, so it's a never cloud policy, or D, finally, if that's not applicable to you or you don't work in a financial institution. Now I'm just going to launch that poll right now. And I'll give you a few moments just to let me have those answers over the next 30 seconds or so. Okay, that's great. Well, I've just got the last of those answers in, so thank you very much to everybody who's completed that. So I'll just be closing the poll now. Now I'd like to move on to give you a snapshot really of our financial performance application Given the time, we can only just touch on this briefly, but just to let you know that we've designed it to make your daily financials available to you on any device, anywhere and anytime. So here, every morning as you log into your application, you're going to be presented with the daily dashboards that you need, and those cover the balance sheet, income statement, your financial positions, and the key ratios that you want to track. Now, we do deliver a standard set of key ratios out of the box, and these reports can be configured to show the information that you're most interested in up front. So you'll see those and the changes and movements in those positions on a daily, monthly, or year-to-date basis. Another example here is that you can quickly drill down into your financial results and understand the underlying reasons for any improvements or changes. This snapshot is performance ratios, so those are tracked month to month or year to date. And as I mentioned before, these ratios and values are configurable, and you can change the view using multiple filters within the application. So in this example, you have return on assets with an annual or monthly change, or return on equity and tracking that. And these are some of the visualizations that come with the application. So here you're looking at a snapshot of what we call our KPI tree analysis. We've color-coded that to make it easier for you to visualize what's going on and be able to drill down into and to understand what's driving the performance in the business. So the idea here is that you can drill down directly from any of the dashboards or reports and all the way to the underlying business level, or even right the way down to the GL account itself. So it's a really quick way to get a more granular view of what's driving the contributions to the headline figures that make up your reports. Now, just moving on to banking performance, what you've seen so far with financial performance is based on GL balances coming from your source GL system. What we're also able to do is to bring you a feed of loan and deposit data from your core banking system. Now, we call that banking performance, and it covers all of the loan and deposit dashboards. Essentially, what you need to know about your people, product, channel, and branch. So a hot topic subject might be non-performing loans, for example, and you may want to be able to identify how a region or branch or a specific group of products contribute to non-performing loans. As I mentioned before, all of these reports have filters and parameters, so they can help you focus your analysis on specific products or branches, or you can choose multiple measures of non-performing loans. So for example, that could be ranges of past due bands. And the system itself has an extensive set of out-of-the-box reports for you to view, including loan risk as well. So taking a look at credit rating analysis or maturity or concentration analysis, amongst other things. So when you want to carry out a detailed product performance analysis, you can quickly compare the performance of different regions, branches, or loan offices. So if you want to view or focus on specific business lines, you can also change that to mortgages or credit cards or other products. So you can quickly look at high or low performers or check leading indicators. So those might be the loan funnel analytics, for example. So they'll give you an idea of what's coming down the track before they hit the balance sheet. And they'll be able to help you track the overall growth or reduction in loan applications in that case by type, average value, or approval rates. Similarly to branch scorecards, we also provide loan officer scorecards. So that allows managers to see at a glance which loan officers are performing well or badly versus the targets set by management or against their peers. So you can get an indicator to see if trends are generalized or isolated to a specific branch or business unit. So for example, new loan analysis might help you adjust to catch up with early signs of underperformance against targets, so whether that's people, product, channel, or branch. And we get all of this just by simply selecting around 23 fields off of your loan and deposit portfolio. Now, that's just been a whirlwind tour of the first two applications. As I say, you can go onto our demo center to take a greater look in more detail at our applications. But in the interest of time for today's session, I'd like to now invite Graham to walk you through our approach to automating regulatory reporting. Now, Graham, I'm just going to hand over to you now, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, hi Connor, thanks very much indeed. Hello everybody, this is Graham Goble here. Yeah, so what I'm going to do in this section of the presentation is walk through the regulatory reporting process as we see it and how we deploy it within our customers. So we tend to think about regulatory reporting process as a three-step process. Firstly, we need to identify the right source data and have it extracted from the core systems. That could be coming in from teller systems, from treasury systems, from GL systems, from core systems. So we expect multiple systems to be required to provide the extracts. And in any regulatory reporting project, that's probably somewhere between 4 to 10 or 11 source systems that we may need to pull data from. To support the reporting requirements, that data often needs to come in on a daily basis. A lot of regulatory reports require reporting for the day, for the week, for the month, for the quarter. So we have this capability of uploading and automating data on a daily basis and pulling it into the system. We then move into a section where we build rules within our product, and those rules align with every result that we might wish to push into, for example, a prudential balance sheet or a loan schedule or a security schedule. So if you think of every number on every report as needing to be uniquely identifiable and referenceable, and every one of those cells requiring a business rule or selection behind it. So we may require pulling in the total gross loan portfolio number for the balance sheet, but in a schedule, we may be required to break down that loan and advances number by sector, by customer type. The area of securities, we may need to distinguish between the type of security in the schedule and then break it down by various tenor or maturity bands and buckets. So as we analyze the data requirements, we also analyze the fields that we need to pull in from those source tables. And we look to the integrity of those fields and whether they can support an automated process. Once we've done that, we then assemble all of the business rules, as I talked about, so which means analyzing again all of the returns, working out which fields from which source tables would be required for the calculations. And then the final step in the process is to push that information into the desired output. Now, the output could be an Excel file that you're going to send to the regulator, or it could be an electronic file that needs to be sent in a specific format, something like XBRL or other supported formats. So for BankBI, the regulatory reporting process really starts by looking at data, and also requires us to move the data, analyze the data in terms of its content and integrity. So what does this look like in action? If we move forward one slide, I think you may need to do that, Connor, for me, unless you give me back control, I can try and take it on from here. So this is, on this screen here, what we're doing here is giving a view of all of the business rules that we have developed for this particular set of regulatory returns. So as I said, all of the business rules are created for all of the reports and schedules. So if you think of a sort of large repository inside the BankBI system, where all of those business rules are used, and we're effectively mapping those selections or business rules into, in this case, a prudential balance sheet. So in this example here, we need to bring forward notes and coins in domestic currency, notes and coins. We need to build a selection to support that. And those selections will determine where we're pulling data from, the source file. So it may be coming from a GL file. Other selections may come from account-based loans, deposits, or treasury-based tables, or even transactional tables. So this is where we fine-tune the selection to firstly determine the source we're going to use, and then finally, what is the selection we're going to use, effectively like a where filter or where clause that's going to determine what it is that we're going to pull in and where we're going to place that within the report. So once we have defined all of those selections across all of those data sources, for any given reporting date, what we're then able to do is generate the results for every single date. Not only generate the total result, but also maintain a full audit trail, identifying for the bank permanently for those historic reporting dates, what source files were used and which source accounts were brought in to complete the selection. So as we push this data into, say, our prudential return for the month of July, permanently within BankBI is a record of the figures we've used and also the accounts that have been selected to add up into and complete those results. And as I said, those audit trails or those selections could be referencing anything from GL account balances through to real customer account balances, through to transactions and transaction movements. So a comprehensive database that has a permanent record of what has been reported and the audit trail. And in doing this, we're also able to reconcile that all of the subschedules that should add up to the balance sheet do in fact add up to the balance sheet. So we see a lot of issues where banks are submitting a breakdown of, say, loans and advances in a schedule, and somehow that schedule gets disconnected from the actual total loans and advances reported in the balance sheet. So maintaining integrity across the entire reporting set for the month is a really important part of ensuring you have integrity, you have the right numbers, and also you have a record of that for audit purposes. As we move forward, what we're going to need to do is recognize that regulatory reporting is not a static requirement. We have our requirements today, but economic and other circumstances will dictate that the regulator will change the reports over time. They may increase the frequency, they may change the structure, they may introduce new report requirements. So our solution is very flexible in allowing our customers to react to these ongoing changes. And we address these in two ways. Firstly, within our subscription, we allow for an element of services time from our own financial analysts and specialists to help our customers. So that means you have the ability to call back to the same financial analysts who helped implement the system on a month-by-month basis should you have any questions or issues or requirements. And secondly, making the system easy to take in those new requirements is a key factor of our success here. So what we're able to do, and in this example, I'm using an example where an Excel file or template is required as the end result that we're going to send to the regulator. We can do two things. Firstly, we can pull that regulator's report in as what we call a template into the system. And that allows us to ingest that Excel file with multiple worksheets, and embedded in that template is a link to the results that we want to pull from the results database. So this gives the bank control over any changes that are required. You can build new selections, you can build or adapt templates, load them into the system. And then what our system does is for every reporting date, we read the template and we make a copy of it populated with the data from the regulatory reporting database results that we have created. So in this case, we can build a solution which meets your requirements when you go live with the system, but also we can build a solution that adapts to those changes as and when they occur, gives the bank the ability and finance staff the ability to accommodate those changes, but also maintains through the subscription service that we offer a continuous dialogue between our own financial specialists and the bank's finance team. So we really can work in partnership here on an ongoing basis, recognizing that, as I said, regulatory reporting requirements do change over time, and the banks need flexibility to accommodate those changes without any undue risk to the process. So what we have tried to build, and hopefully you would agree we've succeeded, is what we call the ultimate end user experience. So once we've analyzed all of those data sources and we've got those data extracts running, they would be being ingested on a daily basis. So that means data would be pushed to our application. We would process that data. We would then create the results and we would populate the template. So if I had a reporting requirement to go to, in this case, my prudential return and I selected a reporting date, I would need to do no more than select the reporting date on the filter. And this would show me the available reports I had for that date. And then I could simply click on the report. It would download that report for me locally. And it would then allow me to open that return and see all the numbers populated. As I said, if I wish to go in and to see the audit trail behind that, I can go into the audit trail and see what has been selected. If there are any changes were required, I could go back and change selections, re-trigger the process, regenerate the population of data into the template, and that just takes a matter of minutes. If there were other changes that were, let's say, legitimate changes that required some manual adjustments before the figures were sent to the regulator, again, what I have the capability to do is make those adjustments within the BankBI system itself. So we have a full adjustment capturing capability and an adjustment audit trail capability. So this means that the source data can never be changed. It's brought in as is from the core systems into our BankBI data model. But with the relevant rights and privileges, your finance team can make adjustments to those returns by layering on top the adjustments with the relevant reason, capturing who did it and why they did it. And so the end result is a composition of the actual result we computed from the source data, adjusted by anything that was adjusted on top. And again, this is important because a lot of banks are making adjustments downstream in the returns or reports themselves and losing control and track of who made those adjustments, why those adjustments were made, and whether those adjustments were made correctly across all of the component schedules that might need to be adjusted to create the right end result. So again, if this is left to, let's say, manual operation, it's not, it's fairly easy to see why many banks struggle with the integrity of data. And that problem with integrity of the data leads to a number of things. It leads firstly to reliance on manual processes can lead to inefficiencies. It leads to dependency on key risk of individuals who only know the process and only they are able to do it. Those manual processes become costly because a lot of out-of-hours working tends to be required to complete those processes. And then ultimately it becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to actually review and sign off those numbers without having the full audit trail of what has gone into the number in the first place, and also seeing the level of adjustments that have been posted into the returns. So by moving all of that into a cloud-based application, you're really creating a very secure environment within which you can run the regulatory process. Now, one of the issues that we have to address, and we do address within the product, is anonymity of the data. In other words, there are returns and there are schedules where you would need to identify counterparties, whether it's in banks or for interbank movements, or whether it's customers for top deposits or loans. Those schedules tend to be by customer name that you need to do it. We have developed a solution in BankBI where anything customer related is completely encrypted before it is sent to us. And this allows the bank to be in control of the encryption process using a password and key that they control. So whilst the data is in our system, it's completely encrypted. We are not able to decrypt it to see clear text who the counterparty or name of the counterparty is, or even the account number. But when it is downloaded, so in this example, when you click and open return, we have created an embedded decryption capability within Excel, for example, for that final schedule to be decrypted so that you can reveal those customers. And again, you would need to type in a password locally that only you would know, and that would complete the decryption process. So end to end, we're able to leverage the efficiency of cloud, the ability to remote access this. And what we're finding with a lot of bank staff still working remotely, we're ideally placed to support the back office operations of finance and treasury operations and credit and other departments, because we're a cloud-based solution. So we don't have to talk about how and where and when we deploy servers and IT and technology. We're really focusing in on just getting into the business rules, source data, and mapping the results into the required returns. So hopefully I've given you a fairly detailed walkthrough there. There's a lot more to it, I appreciate. We tend to get to the next level of detail by running workshops with our clients to review their current processes, their current extract files and source files. And in doing that, we can then fairly easily map out the data requirements, the integrity issues that there may be in certain fields, through to mapping that to the final returns and schedules that would be in the scope of work. I think that's as far as I can take it on there, Connor. So I'm going to hand back to you for the polling questions.
Okay, that's great, Graham. Thank you very much indeed for that. So yes, everybody, so you're looking again at the last polling question here. So this question is to understand if you're in a budget cycle at the moment, and are you currently budgeting for a financial management solution? So something close to what we're talking, or similar to what we've been discussing today. So the answer would be A, if yes, you've got budget for this financial year, or B, the second answer would be yes, we're budgeting, but for next financial year, no, or then the other third answer would be no, we don't currently have budget set aside, or finally, not applicable, or I don't work in a financial institution. So I'm just going to launch that third and final polling question now. So if you'd like to read and understand the question and let me know your response, I should give you 30 seconds or so to complete that. So just gathering the last few inputs there. So just another 5 seconds. Anybody else who would like to vote? And then I shall close the poll. So I think, Graham, if perhaps I could ask you now to give us an outline of perhaps the customers that we do have and some examples of where we've been able to help.
Yes, thank you, Connor. I think you mentioned before we have over 60 customers in 40 countries. As a company, we're just coming up to 7 years old. So in that 7 years, we've been able to pretty much worldwide, geographically, extend our offering from our home base here in UK. And this is largely testament down to the cloud and the cloud capabilities. So we're able to deploy our solution in multiple geographies. We use Microsoft Azure public cloud as our platform of choice. And we're able to therefore site our system close to our customer base, depending on the continent that they're in. Some of our customers use our system in multiple geographies and consolidate that data up to a regional and group level. So one of the benefits of BankBI is not only that it can work in country for individual banks, but it can also consolidate up through the hierarchy, through the regions, into a head office consolidation basis. And in a moment, I'll step through one of our case studies where they're doing exactly that. But not just doing it on the financial side, but also doing it on the social performance side as well, because they're a microfinance organization. But we do have a number of customers which are banks, and I want to just move on to a case study of one of those, which is actually this dot down here in Kingston, Jamaica. And so if we just move forward to the next slide, it will be a case study on Sagicor, Jamaica. And Sagicor in Jamaica is a full service bank offering private, retail and insurance services to its customer base. And several years ago, they had a major upgrade of their and a merger of two banks to form the Sagicor Group. And we were asked to step in and help them automate more than 150 regulatory reports to both the central bank, the Bank of Jamaica, and also the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation. So what we do there for them is pull data from their core system, which is Temenos T24, and build a series of rules, as I described, to compute results for the two different sets of returns. And then through the ability to push those returns into the final format, we're able then to help automate those returns. So that project was successful in reducing significant number of full-time employees out of the daily, monthly, weekly, monthly, quarterly process. And along the journey, and in line with the theme of multiple value propositions here, we were able to produce automation templates for their management reporting and financial disclosure reports at year end. So a complete alignment, if you like, of taking financial and account and transactional based data, analyzing it, computing results that can not only feed into the management reporting, management returns and financial disclosures, but then can also be refactored into the regulatory reporting requirements, where the same data needs to be taken in, but maybe using different fields is then broken into different reports. So again, a full 3-in-1 capability covering their financial reporting needs, the sort of product branch dynamic information we're able to produce in what we call the banking performance module, and then finally feeding all of that data into automating the regulatory reports. On the next slide, we have a case study regarding Vision Fund International, and this is the multi-country group that I talked about that has a presence in more than 30 countries. They have over 1 million active borrowers. Being a microfinance lender, their average loan size is relatively small. They have a high focus on female borrowers, and really in line with their mission statement, they're really trying to improve the lives of children around the world, being a division or a subsidiary of the large children's charity World Vision. So Vision Fund International is the microfinance subsidiary of World Vision, and as I said, really focused not just on the financial portfolio, but also on the social portfolio. In this case, things like women, children impacted, jobs created through their operations in multiple countries. Now, they operate in over 30 countries around the world across the different continents. They also have multiple different core systems, well into the teens. I think it's up to about 15, 16 different cores, and multiple different GL systems. So again, one of the benefits of the BankBI system is that we can take data from multiple cores. We are agnostic to where the data comes from, and then we're able to consolidate that and produce some standardization views across the whole organization. So for an organization like Vision Fund International, where they're operating in more than 30 countries, that would be operating in more than 30 different currencies, for example. So one of the obvious things is the need to consolidate that data on a daily basis up to head office and regional level, and create a unified reporting currency, which in their case is US dollars. So what we're able to do with our solution is provide to the finance team based out in Los Angeles, to the rest of the group based across Europe and in country, a complete daily snapshot of loan portfolios and also financial performance in a very cost-effective cloud-based solution, which can be accessed by anyone from any location. So I think that brings us to the question and answer section, Connor, and so I'll hand back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Graham. Yes, indeed. So let me just have a look now to see what questions we've got. So we've had a few questions, and I'd like to be able to get through them. So if I start with the first one, Graham, if I could put this to you, please. If you have not mapped regulatory reports in my country, is that a problem?
It's not a problem. It's obviously beneficial if we have looked at them before, but having said that, we apply a completely standard approach to looking at regulatory returns. And we have a very, as I said, data-centric approach. So for us, it's all about identifying those data sources, identifying the key fields that we need to use to help us map or split data into those returns. So for us, it sort of starts as a data analysis exercise, and then we map that data to the returns, which then in turn gives us a sort of scope of work for a project. So it's not a problem, but obviously if we've done it before, like anything, we can leverage that experience, but it doesn't prevent us from starting any project in any country.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. Yeah, we've had a few more questions through. So another one would be let me have a look. Can you manage a daily reporting frequency?
Yes, we can. There's no barrier, and we can even support intraday. Our system is completely open 24/7. As soon as data is presented to it, it can process it. In the arena of regulatory reporting, banks might be required to, for example, report on foreign exchange transactions or movements on a daily basis. And again, one of the barriers we see to initially being able to do that sort of thing is maybe there are manual processes in play at the moment of the bank. So quite often transactions are booked in systems, but sometimes for historic or other reasons, data is being collected through a spreadsheet, through emails, and somebody's coming in early or staying late to collate that information and make the returns. So generally, by investigating what is the current working practice and the process, understanding the nature of what needs to be reported, tracking that back to the underlying operating procedures and where the data is booked, we can often firstly streamline the process into an automated extract, and then finally automate the process into turning those extracts into the final delivery and numbers. So it has to be an end-to-end process. You can't sort of just jump in and expect to solve the problem if there's so many manual steps in the way. We really need to understand the whole process, rework it, and reimagine it. And as I say, working with the bank, we can then get the benefits of automation, not just in the extract, but in automation, the business rules, and being able to complete the return back to the regulator.
That's great, Graham. Well, thanks very much for such a complete answer for that one. So we've got some questions which are, I think, going to take longer, probably longer than we have today to respond to. But as I did say that we would certainly get back to those and we'll respond to you in writing. I do have one third question which I think we could squeeze in, Graham, which is how many bank staff, oh, it says, no, sorry, many bank staff are working remotely. Are you still able to run this sort of project remotely?
Yes, that's a good question. Obviously, in this current difficult times, most organizations have had to adopt home or remote working for their staff. Unfortunately, at BankBI, we were set up 7 years ago as a cloud-only solution. So what that means is not only is the solution we offer to our customers only available through the cloud, it also means we have adopted a cloud-only policy for the entire let's say, operating systems that we use, both for sort of everything from HR and payroll and accounting through to the way we design and develop and deliver our product. It also means as a company, we have our own staff working remotely from home. So although we have an office, a large portion of our staff were already working from home. So from BankBI side, the current economic and health situation has not really impacted us at all. We've just simply moved into a complete home working environment. And so what we're able to then do is use those capabilities that we have already in place to really help the banks who are also or have also worked to home or remote working for a large portion of their staff. So for example, if you're working on a BankBI project, we don't need to travel to your office. We don't need to meet you face to face. Through the technology we have these days, we can simply open up systems, we can review systems, we can do the full analysis workshops online. And also the bank staff, without any additional hardware, software requirements, can access the BankBI system. If you are watching this webinar, you have all that you need to access BankBI. A browser and an internet connection with secure credentials is all you need to be able to work on and open up the BankBI system. So in many regards, it's business as usual for us. Banks are obviously having, and other financial institutions are adapting the way they work, both in terms of staff and the way they meet and greet and work with their client base. But from a BankBI perspective, given there's no additional hardware software investment to be made, we really can start these projects very, very nimbly and in an agile way, and also get best use of our resources who are based around the United Kingdom and can be working on anybody's project at any time in conjunction with the bank staff. So for us, it's very much business as usual, and we have not been significantly impacted, and we're trying to ensure our customers are not impacted in their projects as they go forward.
That's great, Graham. Yes, thanks very much. I can certainly contest to that as well. So working from home at the moment as we speak. So I think that's, as I say, thank you very much to everybody who submitted questions. There's one or two that we haven't got time to be able to give a full answer to as we speak. So I will, as I say, catch up with those and respond in writing to you. So everybody who submitted a question will get a full response from us. And I think now, just in the interests of respecting everybody's time on a webinar, I think we just move now to the final section here, which is just to say that everybody is invited to have free access to our online demo. So that is a fully featured system. So you have good options in terms of being able to look at the resources, check out the other webinar recordings, get an idea of the breadth of the application coverage, or go straight to the demo videos as well. So the demo videos will also give you a good idea of what you can see. But if you want to actually have a look around the system and start to navigate it yourself, then if you just drop me a line, then I can arrange to give you that no obligation access and just discuss what you'd like to see specifically, so I can configure the system so that you get it you get all the reports that you're most interested in seeing. So that's usually a 15-minute conversation, and it just helps set you up so you can understand how to navigate your way around and get the system configured to the way that you're most interested in seeing. So I'd just like to thank everybody really who's been able to join us today. I know you're extremely busy, and for taking time out of your day. It's been great for you to join us. Thank you very much for all the questions, for your answers to the polls. As I say, we'll share the recording link or the link to the recording of the webinar early next week, together with a copy of the presentation, the poll results, and any written answers that we discussed earlier. So I think just with that, just to thank Graham very much for your inputs and contributions there and answers to those full answers to those questions. And with that, thank you very much from myself, and I will now close the webinar. Thank you for joining, and keep an eye out for our next one.